us.
The liberation of mutant kind has begun.
Welcome to the future.
Voice is clown.
Not clown, Joker.
Avengers!
Assemble.
Nobody tampers with the equipment except Tony Stark.
Good idea.
United, the Avengers are strong.
Hawkeye, hands off.
Fool! Have you forgotten my invincible magnetic power?
Not this time, Magneto.
My mutant brain senses danger.
Something unseen is slowly spreading its poisons, edging tempers.
Think carefully before you do this.
You filthy criminals.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You unlock this door with the...
What up, YouTube? It is Two Fat Guys Pullist, episode 176. That is right. We are just blowing and going in the year of 2024, and it is much appreciated. Everyone that is watching this as a live episode, and everyone that is watching this as a past episode, we much appreciate you. We got a pretty decent size. Well, I wouldn't say decent size shows, but we got a decent show tonight. Some pretty cool books this week. Just to give you a heads up, my throat is incredibly dry. Got a sickness going around in the house, so if you see me chugging water or just taking a break, I apologize. My voice is kind of in and out as we speak right now, but we will get it going. Before we even start, John coming in with the super chat before the show even starts. Thank you, good sir. He says, "Hey y'all, didn't get to read everything, but so far my top 3 picks of the week are ASM, Ultimates, and Space Ghost."
Ooh.
Nice. And then AC Joe says, "Hello."
Hello, Vietnam.
My pick of the week gets Fury number 2. Close second is Ultimates number 1. What's up, Jade? All right, well, let's excuse me, get to some of the business, and then we'll get to the show. So as always, we talk about our show's sponsor, which is Collected Comics and Games here in the DFW area. They are a great, awesome sponsor. That's where Marie and Nate get our books. They've got 3 great locations, one in Fort Worth, one in Keller, and one in Irving, with Irving being the most recent location to be open. So if you're in the DFW area, we'd love for you to go check out Collected Comics and Games. There you can get everything from new issues, back issues, omnibuses, collected editions, manga, posters, D&D books and dice, card games, models, toys, statues. I mean, they've got everything. I mean, they got everything, including plushies. It's great.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, I wasn't going to leave it off.
Time.
But anyway, definitely go check it out, whether it's in Fort Worth, Irving, or Hearst. They've got, Ron and Brent have a great, curation of stuff.
Oh, you know what?
Yeah, I think I know what you're going to say.
Well, I can't remember the name, so if you remember the name.
So, some other news, and I wish I had talked to Brent and Ron about this, but I'm just going to go ahead and talk about it. So, Brent, the other owner of Collected, is starting his own publication called Crown Comics.
Yes,
Comics. I need to have a conversation with them to get more information on that so I can present it to y'all. But Brent is running and gunning right now. He is starting his own publication, and he's going to be making comics called Crown Comics. And I'm pretty excited for it. So when we get more information, we'll talk about it more on the show. I'm sure I'll get their logo on here, and we'll definitely get them, more information to you, more information about the publication and what he's going to be developing with some of his other industry friends that he's gained over the years. So that's pretty exciting news. Also, I want to give a shout out to, I think it's Panel Boys, Mike's podcast, who's over at the shop. I definitely want to give them a shout out. If you are looking for another podcast to listen to and to watch, I highly recommend Panel Boys with a Z. They're on YouTube, and they talk comics, they talk pop culture, they talk about everything. So if you're looking for another Two Fat Guys Pullist approved podcast to listen to and or watch, go check out Panel Boys, because Mike and his friends over there are doing a great job with that show on the tubes. So, also let's talk about our milestone giveaway, which we're on the road to 1,250 subscribers. When we hit 1,250 subscribers, we're giving away a CGC grade 9.8 Signature Series slab, a Uncanny X-Men #1 signed by Jim Chung. It's a great little comic here. X-Men are obviously very hot right now, so when we get to 1,250 subscribers, we are giving away this bad boy. So please make sure to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, and give us a like. Also, we'll be giving away some other slabs as we, get closer and closer, to 2,000 subscribers. And once we give away the 120 or 1251, we'll have another one. I think I'm giving away like a Marvel's Silver Surfer. I've got a bunch of different slabs that we're giving away. When we hit 2,000 though, when we hit 2,000 subs, dude, we're giving away this Thor #1 sketch Nick Klein sketch variant signed by the great one Donnie Cates. So you're definitely gonna want to be subbed because we're giving this bad boy away when we hit 2,000 subs, but we can't do it without your support. So please make sure to hit that sub button. All right, I've said that enough. Let's go ahead and talk about this week's comics. Right? Hope everybody had a great week.
Let's do it.
John also says to Joe, I liked Get Fury as well. I like how they're ending each issue with a super gross way. What's Fury about? Are you reading Fury?
Oh, no, I'm not. Honestly, it is one of those books that kind of hit me like the Ant-Man little mini and stuff like that. And I was just like, that's not really my thing.
Your jam.
It's Garth Ennis too, who is a writer who I personally have almost no experience with, and I know that he's respected. I just haven't got to it.
Gotcha. All right, well, maybe we need to check it out. Everybody's talking about it in chat, so take that cue. Anyway, let's get the show started. We're gonna kick it off with Space Ghost, issue #2 from Dynamite Comics from David Pepose. This was a really fun issue. We're continuing this journey with Space Ghost and him, kind of get a little bit of backstory now, kind of figuring out how he became the Space Ghost. He's lost his family. So we get a little bit of that. But we really get more of a, I wouldn't say a reintroduction, but just continuation of these two kids who lost their dad and are now with, are with Space Ghost, basically. And he's kind of, I wouldn't say nurturing them, but he's taking them under his wing to, make sure that they're protected. And I remember the kids in the cartoon being kind of, sidekicky. And so that's kind of this issue in a nutshell. Like, they get themselves in some trouble. Space Ghost goes to kind of save them. And they're able to work it out with him. And he's like, all right, well, since you guys are, essentially orphans, I'm going to take you under my wing. And, you will be my sidekicks, if you will, with this, genetically mutated monkey as well that they have. And when they became the sidekicks at the very end, I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that. And so my main, just overall review of the book is that it felt like two different stories were going on. We had a very mature issue with Space Ghost and just his origins and how he became Space Ghost going on with the kids. And so it was like this mature story with a campy feeling with the kids kind of mixed with the two. Mm-hmm. And so this dynamic of a new age Space Ghost story, yet still not forgetting its roots within its cartoon origins, was definitely at play here. So there was a balance between kind of bringing Space Ghost into a modern era of comics and storytelling, yet still trying to remember, I say campiness, but like I think that's the only way I can really describe, like, because that's what the cartoon was, right? It was like, like, and it still kind of had that. It definitely still had that vibe, and I think that vibe was with the kids, and I think that's a fair assessment because they're just kids, like, they've been thrust into this position of like being orphaned yet on the run and being hunted by everyone in space. So what else are they going to do but be what they are, which are kids?
Right.
And when they get themselves into trouble, there's a definite, like, very quick turnaround where Space Ghost is like, "The fuck you doing?" And then when they resolve the issue, he's like, "Well, I might as well make use of you and make you guys my sidekicks if you're going to be sticking around." And it's clear the kids are obviously very smart. Like the son or the boy basically is like, just visually seeing Space Ghost do his thing and is calling out, like, his space bands that he wears. Like, one does this and one does the other. And he's using very formal terms. And Space Ghost is like, "Yeah, no, but it's really called this. But good on you, right?" So that's this issue kind of in a nutshell. I enjoyed it. I still like this book. I think it's really fun. It's a nice little, like, kind of diversion to all my other books that are, I wouldn't say serious, but are just more developed and more, and I have more time invested into it. So when I get to this, it's more of kind of sit back and relax and just kind of read it and chill, and feel nostalgic. And I love that. I think David Pepose is definitely hitting the nail on the head when it comes to that idea of just, like, mixing the idea of having, bringing Space Ghost into the modern era of comic books, yet still doing a very good job of its origins and making sure that everything that built this character is still fundamentally there. And I think that's great. So I liked it. I thought it was fun. I'm still definitely on the book for sure. So
I'm sad I missed this one, but of course it's so good the shop ran out of it by the time I got to the shop. So.
Yeah.
Which was today.
Joe says Get Fury is a story about Nick Fury being captured during Vietnam, and he has a lot of knowledge about war. So they get Frank Castle to get him or kill him before they get Fury to talk. Woo! Never watched the cartoon, but the series is great. Batman meets Star Wars, 100%. That's a great little assessment there, Joe. Space Ghost had to get this cover as a foil. So shiny. Dude, the foils for this, there was one that was more of a nostalgic, like, original cover that I almost bought for this. I think it was a 1 in 10. I was very close to buying it. I was there with my sons, and I was explaining to them ratio variants because they love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle and Sonic comics. And we go every Wednesday, and they always want to buy something. And I'm like, "Guys, listen, the books you read don't come out every week." And so, like, when we got there last week, and there were only incentive covers that Ron had out on the floor, and Dan was like, "I want to buy this." I was like, "Not spending $10 on a Sonic comic book. I'm sorry. Like, it's a cool cover, but I'm not doing it, dude. Like, I'm sorry." Right. But there was an incentive. Like, when we walked by and I saw it on the wall, I was like, "Oh," and Dan was like, "Isn't that an incentive cover?" And I was like, "Yes." Like, you could see he was like, "You're not going to buy it, right? Because we're not buying the Sonic comic, and you can't buy," kind of doing that shit. So I was like, "Damn it." But anyway, it was a great book. Had a lot of fun with it. All right, next up from Gary Jerry in Image Comics, we have Falling in Love on the Path to Hell. This was definitely a surprise book for me. I wouldn't say it's my pick of the week, but it's definitely interesting, and I'm just saying it right off the bat, I will be picking up an issue 2. The idea is pretty cool. So you've got essentially 2 different characters on opposite sides of the world at the same period of time, I believe. Just dealing with life, right? You've got this kind of hitman bounty hunter guy who is going after this group of, I don't know what you want to call them, ragtag group that's kind of, did him wrong, and he essentially hunts them down and kills this group in a church. And while he's, doing this, he gets shot on the side, in the stomach, and essentially he's like, "God damn it. Like, I almost got out scot-free." And so he, and it's brutal. Like, when he's shooting these people, like, these dudes, like, their heads are blowing up and brains are going all. So this book is very graphic. And so no mercy with this guy. Like, he's just gone and killing people. And so, he at the beginning of this book, he's able to kill this group, but he ends up getting shot in the transition No, he gets shot in the
I guess he
side.
got shot in the balls.
No, he gets shot in the side, and so he basically like leaves the church going like, God damn it, like this is probably the end of the road for me. So he kind of wanders off. Then we cut to Japan in the Edo area period when I don't know if it's the Edo. It's basically when the samurai are falling, essentially, like Meiji era. Meiji, maybe it's Meiji. I can't remember. I
don't know, so I'm just gonna assume you know.
Either way, it's the fall of the samurai. Basically, the rifle has made its way to Japan, and so swords and arrows are no longer a viable option for war. So there are a bunch of these samurai who are essentially being told that they need to throw down their arms and relinquish the way of the blade or Bushido and just assimilate into society. We're evolving. And we have this character who, she was raised in the way of the blade, which is very, it's not typical for women in Japan at that time. And so she's a bit of a, an anomaly. And she's in this like line to give away, to give up her swords. And someone basically like does the equivalent of like spitting in her face, and she loses it. And so she ends up starting like a little mini rebellion and killing all the emperor's soldiers. And like there's a huge rebellion amongst samurai, killing. And she gets into the same situation where she's involved in a very dramatic battle, is badass at it. She's cutting people's heads off and splitting people in half. And then, before she's able to really like win her little fight, she gets wounded. But she's victorious. And so both of these characters essentially at the same time find themselves sitting at the edge of their country right at the ocean. And they see an island out in the distance as they're starting to pass. And they die, essentially. But then they get warped to this island, and they're like, they're both kind of going like, where the fuck are we? So this is where the book gets weird. And the island is covered in dead bodies. And they're just like, right? So you're like, where are we at? And then as they're kind of, they confront each other. And the woman, doesn't know where she's at. So she's got a blade to this guy's neck. And there's a lot of commotion. And in the midst of their infighting, this giant, like, the way I can describe it is it looks like a alternate version of a brood. Like it's just like this bug alien looking monster thing that comes out. And so they fight, they fight it off. And then this other warrior shows up who seems to be someone from like the Persian Empire and is like, y'all need to shut the fuck up. Y'all are making way too much noise to being on this island. Y'all are fucking green. If you want to survive, follow me. And then it's basically like this presumption, like they're on their way to hell. Basically, I would assume they're in like purgatory. And so they're on this island where there's fucking demon monsters and shit. And so that's kind of where we're at. Like they're in this afterlife kind of fighting for their lives kind of situation. Very, first half of the book, very historical. I mean, like Jerry's got notes and very like committed, like setting the tone for where you are in the West and where you are in the East, and very like he knows his shit, right? And then when everything goes down and you're on this island, it's like a complete 180 of storytelling where like, no, we're in hell, and like, so all that shit doesn't really matter. Just you have to survive, and y'all are, I wouldn't say it's like you're the best of warriors, but that's kind of the situation that they're in. So that's kind of where we're left with this book. It was fun. Again, not my pick of the week, but I had a good time with it. Especially with me not having as many independents on my pool. I'm going to give it an issue 2, see where it goes. But nothing like, it wasn't like, oh my God, this is an amazing book. It was like, all right, this is fun. Like this has my attention for at least another issue. So that's kind of where I'm at with the book. John, I think you bring up a great point. The Path to Hell for me, the art didn't fit the story. It kept pulling me out. I'll probably still pick up issue 2. The art was there were times where the art was really good. And then there were times where you were like, okay, this clearly, like, I got to finish this book, so I'm just going to move on. Like, it wasn't John Romita Jr. bad, but it was definitely, there were definitely spots where, like, there was not as much of attention to detail here where there was, excuse me, oh my God, over here, man, I've got a lot of shit going on over here. Like burping and coughing and, ugh. Joe, this is the first time for me seeing Gary Jerry on an independent book. I wonder if he'll be taking a break from Marvel for a while. Isn't he doing a DC book?
Oh, that is a good question.
I might be thinking of Jason Aaron. I was just looking at the covers for this first 3 issues, and the covers tell a story alone.
Through August, the only thing he has solicited is 2 issues of Iron Man and 2 issues of this.
Interesting. Well, that could be, we could talk about a greater, I think there's about to be a massive shift in storytellers in comics right now with DC and Marvel. And I think some of the more household names I think are, I believe, and it's just a hunch. I'm not saying like because I read this or I heard it from here. Like, I just get the feeling that a lot of the writers that we know and respect are about to just kind of like do their own, like they're ready to do their own thing. And whether, and that either might be because they're burnt out or they're not getting paid enough, or Marvel and DC are ready to kind of mix it up. But I just get the sense that we're in for, I think we're just going to get acquainted to some new writers and new artists. Whether that's going to be good or bad remains to be seen. We'll just have to wait and see. And that's just my 2 cents. Like, I'm not pulling that from anything. Like, I'm not like, yeah, because so and so said this on Twitter.
You're pulling it from somewhere. Your booty hole.
My booty hole. All right, next up from Image, we have Scarlet, issue number 1. I was, excuse me, I was a little hesitant with this because I'm just not as acquainted with G.I. Joe books, but I was pleasantly surprised with this one. This looked like. This was a lot of fun. I liked it. I didn't know what to expect, but damn, man, like, it was cool.
Yeah. I think overall, if you look at this story just for what it is, like completely take away the subtext of G.I. Joe or Energon, I enjoyed it. I liked the story. Like, I like a good, strong female lead with, a morally ambiguous, career, like path. Like, that's all great. I like that. She's on the path to find out what the hell's going on with her girlfriend or significant other. Like, yes, totally like that. However, because none of that is 100% true, and this does exist within G.I. Joe and Energon universe, there was a little bit left to be desired for me.
Right.
I'm sure there were G.I. Joe references in here that I didn't get, which is fine. I'm okay with it. I'm not dogging that. But I really felt like we should have had something more for an Energon universe connection.
I'd agree with
Maybe
that.
I missed it, but like
No.
something. Give me like the enemies have like a rundown transformer in the background, and she's like,
right.
Or maybe you don't even say it, just it's there, and if I noticed it, cool. But like, no symbols from like Void Rivals, or no like, I don't know, any of the stuff that happened in Duke, or whatever the hell the other guy's name is. Like, I don't know. I just was like, I wanted this to feel Energon, and nothing about this felt Energon.
The sense I get from it, after reading it, is it's more like it's very obvious, like character focused, like establish that Scarlet's a badass, establish this ninja hierarchy that we're dealing with as well, which at some point we'll get a Snake Eyes visual because it's the clan that she's going after, because we already got Storm Shadow. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get to me, like after reading this issue, I don't think we're going to get any involvement, Energon, or even Duke, until probably the very end, where it'll be Duke like in a helicopter or a car, like, "What up, kid? Ready to fight some robots?" Yay! Like I think that's how it's gonna. Like I just think that's how it's gonna go. Even though, like, we have an introduction to some other characters that are pretty pivotal within the G.I. Joe universe. Like, I think that's probably how it's gonna go. I will say the first half of the book to me was much more entertaining than the, like the backstory with her and her friend or significant other, and then to throw in the clan, the ninja clan. Like I thought it was cool, but I'm like, wait a minute, like, isn't that a Snake Eyes storyline? Like, why is she going after, like, who knows? I guess we need to read and find out. But like, it did feel like the back end of the book was kind of like stuffed with a bunch of new information that we're like, oh wait, shit, we're establishing something else too here.
Right.
So I don't know. We'll see. Let's see here. Let's get back to chat. There is a few books ending after August: Captain Marvel, Iron Man, maybe She-Hulk. Well, so to talk about She-Hulk for a second. So that thing with that, the last issue was solicited for July, but they moved it to August.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, and you're probably gonna like break my heart, but there's been some speculation like, well, the fact that they moved it to August, maybe we're getting like a, something. We might be getting something like maybe either a new reset, or they're just going on break. Obviously, She-Hulk is now going to be part of the new Avengers Assemble book, which I'm like super fucking stoked for. But I'm just kind of holding out hope after that realization amongst the community that maybe we might be getting, it's just going on hiatus possibly, or I don't know. Like, I'm hoping that's the case. No?
Yeah, I don't see any information like it pointing anywhere. Still have not found anything from. There's certainly not anything from Marvel making a statement on this.
Or Rainbow.
Someone on League of Comic Geeks claims that the creator said the future is unclear on the series a week ago, but I don't. There's no source or anything for it.
Interesting.
So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it literally seems like the book is just in limbo right now, and they haven't made a decision on what they're going to do with it.
And there might be other things at play, like events. The fact that she's going to be in Avengers Assemble, but like that's never stopped other characters having their own books. So we'll see. We'll just have to wait and see. I had fun with this issue, but nothing is making me want to follow it from month to month. I'm gonna trade weight. Trades are only 14. I need to make room for new X books, dude. Fucking, you're not kidding.
Yeah.
Get ready for an awesome discussion that you're gonna be eye rolling the entire time. I'm not picking up issue 2 of Scarlet. I didn't get anything from it. Even the Storm Shadows line at the end felt off. I think the end game, Energon needs to start doing more crossovers. We're in the third phase of this world, and it's all standalone stories. Well, it feels like the only, like, outside of Duke, one, I guess Cobra Commander, but even then, like, it was very subtle. Well, no, Duke was pretty upfront. Like, he's out for blood for any kind of thing that's a robot. But I feel like the two books that have been, or I don't even say the two books. The one book that has done anything when it comes to crossover is Void Rivals. Like, they're intimately joined at the hip because they're all like, there are storylines that are interconnected, whether it's the most recent Transformer that jumped in, or the one at the beginning, even in the free comic book day video or book where Hot Rod was involved. Like, it just feels like Void Rivals, they're much more involved than anything. So yeah, I agree with you. I think we need to start crossovering like quickly. Also, it seems like the artist forgot to add background in a lot of these panels. Yeah, I could see that in some of them, but I think that might have been more of a creative position when it comes to like the flashbacks with the other girl. So I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed it.
I didn't notice,
but it didn't like blow me away. Like, she's like, dude, crossbow wise, fuck yeah, that's some sick shit. Like, holy shit.
I did like that.
That was cool. All right. let's jump over to Marvel. We're going to kick it off with the Ultimates issue #1 from Camp. I liked it. You know, it wasn't, again, it wasn't like immediate, like, holy shit, this book's amazing. But I feel like we're doing some cool things. It doesn't feel like an old idea, if that makes any sense, which is hard to say with something that's, you know, just coming back from like almost a 10-year hiatus. But I'm digging it. Like, I'm liking the new ideas of these characters, kind of their new positioning, yet still their familiarity. I really liked the duality of trying to recruit Ant-Man and Wasp while at the same time going like, we gotta go. Either fucking make a decision and fight with us or don't. But in the background, you've got this orb kind of giving him the spiel again, kind of just in the background. I really like that. I really like the utilization of Doom. I like Sif and Thor here. I even like Captain America being like, I like him in the sense that he's calling out the blind hopefulness of Iron Lad or Tony and even Doom, kind of going like, I've seen this story before, like, just do it this way because you're wasting time. And it was proven correct, right? Like, they were trying to recruit everybody and it didn't work. Like, some of these former heroes, or not even, or heroes to be, you know, either fucked up using their recruitment or ended up killing themselves, or like just crazy shit, like things that you can't really calculate with math because of the human experience. And I thought that was a really deep concept for a comic to kind of pull off. Like, it's all right, we'll just recruit. And like, even Captain America, who's that kind of guy, is like, this ain't that kind of game, guy. Like, this is different. Like, psychologically, the game has changed. And I thought that was really cool. Like, it's a very subtle nod. But I think it's a concept that, like, if you're not really like reading, it kind of just passes you by, which I think is kind of cool. I'm not saying it's high nose or, you know, you're sticking your nose up in the air, but I think it was just a cool idea. I don't know. I liked it. And like I said, I like Thor because Thor's like kind of again, just headstrong. I'm king of Asgard. And even Sif's like, you need to chill the fuck out. He's like, nah. And then like he does it, and then he starts bleeding out. And she's like, I told you, like, chill the fuck out. Like, you are not there yet. So yeah, I'm interested to see like who else we're going to recruit. Obviously, we've seen solicitations, and some of our heroes aren't really heroes. They're on the other side, which is pretty cool. I will say though, the French-speaking Captain Britain, whatever. Like, I was like, okay.
No, I was one of my favorite parts.
Okay, well, for me, I was like, this is okay. I get it.
As a history buff, that does not make you like.
No, I mean it does, but
Captain
like,
Britain is French because France has literally taken over Europe.
I guess, but like, for me, it was more distracting. Like, I don't know. It was okay. I wasn't. It didn't make me go like, I get it, but I wasn't going like, that's clever. I was just like, that's whatever. Like, I don't. I guess I was just more invested with like, what's Hank Pym gonna do, right? Because of his contemplation, because like he knows his history, right? He's watched and read his history. Like, he knows that he's not a good guy. Like, he is the inventor of Ultron. Like, he ends up becoming a villain. Like, will I continue that path forward? Like, if I accept this responsibility, am I going to be evil? And like, they just don't need that right now. They need fucking numbers. So I was more in kind of encapsulated in that rather than like that part of it. But I get it.
Yeah. I love how you always get all the good things, and now I have to go.
Okay, I'll shut up. So, I'm sorry. I didn't say anything. Go ahead.
No, there's only a few things I have that are nitpicky. These are not even categorically bad things. These are just things that didn't really do it for me. And this is why comics are good, right? Because chat is clearly going to disagree with me, but like, Hank Pym has never been a character I cared about, and I don't care about any other versions of him. However, John had a really good point that pushed me to tick the other way. John said, okay. I loved what they did with Hank Pym in this book. It was good to see his character sort of redeemed and taken off the scrap pile, and they didn't even avoid the hurt Janet aspect, which people tried to do in the past. Like, this character is a piece of shit. Like, it's just straight up. Like, it's not like, oh, he created Ultron and straight up. Like, just overall, it's just not a great character. Him and Scott should go to another pocket dimension and never be heard from again. However, that is a good point, and I will actively try to not let my bias against either of those two characters, because I don't care about Janet. I don't know why. I don't know why. I just the tiny and the giant, the aspects of those just are like too, like, and this is gonna sound really stupid, but they're too gimmicky to me, or too like 60s cartoon clown.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
You knew exactly what I meant.
I know. I knew exactly what you were talking about.
But also, finally, we have one unique original character here, and this is our Reed Richards Doom. But like, other than that, like, Sif is kind of cool. I like Sif being on the team. But like, my God, Captain America, like, you can't be like, come on, we got to be a little bit better than that. Thor, I love Thor. I read all the Thor books.
Yeah.
We don't need more Thor. I did like how the first time we saw him being,
he's like blood out, dude.
Open, but like, I knew this was coming. I mean, you clearly see the team on the cover, right? But like, I don't know. I was like, man, this guy, he must got something going on. If he's gonna have the balls to put fucking dumbass Thor and Captain America on another Avengers team on a massive reboot when the whole comics world is looking at him, this guy's gonna do something crazy. And nope, they bust Captain America out. He's just 616.
Well, I mean, it's only the first issue. Like, let's wait and see. Like, the next cover is fucking Iron Lad and Captain America fighting. Like,
right, and that's why I say take what I. This nitpick. I'm obviously going to be reading the series, probably.
Yeah.
No matter how bad it gets. So.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I was watching. I watched Comic Book Herald's video, his live stream, because he was talking about X-Men books, and he was also talking about Ultimates. And obviously, the obvious point about Hickman popped up, and I find it very interesting. The whole chat was talking about how Hickman shit the bed with X-Men. And being selfish and not wanting to like see it through, and because nobody wanted to play with his toys, he was the only one that wanted to play, right? And people were like, "Well, do you think that's going to happen with Ultimates?" And Comic Book Herald was like, "Yeah, like probably. Like you've got this establishment, yeah, right." And like that's the exact face I made when he said that. But dude, like, if there's anyone that I'm going to listen because they have such like an authority and experience within the industry, it's going to be him. And so if he can read the tea leaves and go, listen, enjoy it while you can, because at some point Hickman's going to get bored and say, all right, have fun, right? Because we've already kind of established a writer's room for the Ultimate universe. You've got...
But Hickman's not a part of that.
Huh?
But Hickman's not a part of that.
Well, he's not, but at the same time, like...
Or I guess not a leader of that. He is
right,
a part of it.
But you had somebody who established it again. He established this new story narrative of bringing the Ultimate Universe back. Now he's writing the Ultimate Spider-Man, so he has a book. Then he's also got all these other people writing within the universe. The only person who seems to not be writing within the canon of what he's established at the moment, at least for the foreseeable like future right now, because of the book we're reading, is Peach. Like Peach, and he brought this up. He's like, Peach is like off on an island doing her own shit, whether you like it or not, and that's just the way it's gonna be. And who knows? Like,
which I love.
I do. There are some people that don't, and whatever. That's your opinion. You're allowed to have it. But like, you know, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but like, I will not be surprised if that ends up being the case where like he jumps off of Ultimate Spider-Man because he's written what he wants to write, and then someone else picks it up, and then whatever is being established within what he's set up just kind of spirals out, just like kind of what happened with X-Men. That being said, I guess it's a little bit of a different situation, because you would have assumed the person that was going to be writing the Ultimates book would have been Jonathan Hickman, and it's camp. So there may be a slight diversion to that ultimate ending, which might be a good thing. So we'll have to wait and see. Let's see. You said that part. Issue 2 of Ultimates has a spoiler variant cover. Interesting. We need more Thor, Captain America, and Cowbell, baby, Joe says. I have a fever. The Ultimate U books are strong for 4. I would agree with that. And then Joe says, just imagine, the rumor is this was supposed to be Donny Cates' universe. Yeah, that makes sense.
I think that's almost all but confirmed.
Right. Like that, yeah, because he was doing it. He was doing it in Venom. God damn.
Oh, that right. Just like it hurts. It hurts so much.
This book fucking sucks, dude. No, I'm kidding. No, it's good. But man, and I, again, like we're kind of veering, but man, I just pray to the gods that I hope Donnie comes back. I miss him dearly. Like I really do. Like that guy just talk about a fucking fire starter.
Yeah.
Anyway, I saw he tweeted the other day something about PlayStation, so I'm wondering if he's just chilling on his couch playing PlayStation. Anyway, this was good. 100%. All right, next up. Oh boy, here we go. Uncanny or X-Men number 7 or issue number 35. Again, watched Comic Book Herald. I had to because I need to grab as much insight as I can, and that man is a fucking resourceful motherfucker. Like he's so good. I love his stuff, and he does a great job of just laying it out there for people that don't have a full grasp of the concepts. And so we didn't have a show last weekend, so I wasn't able to talk about Karen Gillan's end with Rise of the House of X, but essentially,
no, we did talk about that.
Did we? Or did we talk? Well, no, we talked about it, didn't we?
Oh, yeah, maybe when we were.
We had a discussion. Long story short, it's incredibly evident. Like I said, with Hickman jumps off the boat and says, "All right, deal with it," and so you've got a wide range of ideas that need to be tied up. And how you do that is all based on who's writing. And I think both Karen Gillan and Gary Jerry had the impossible task of ending such a unique and awesome idea. And I just don't, I can't sit here and go, they shit the bed. I can't, because what Hickman did at the beginning was so groundbreaking because it was so different to what we knew these characters to be. And then Marvel was like, we need to end this one because the vision and direction is no longer there, but also, hey, Kevin Feige's in charge, and we are going to directionally change what we're doing with these characters to kind of be more in line with what people are consuming on all levels of media. And I think that's very evident with what's going on with with Miss Marvel. Like, oh, she's a mutant, oh wait, she was a mutant, that's very evident. Whether that's good or bad is your opinion. I'm not going to go there. But with this issue, there were good things on how it ended, and there were some really stupid unfortunate directions, which to me shows the evidence of just get them back to where we know they are. And I think the biggest the biggest chunk of this book was Apocalypse showing up and basically saying, I'm the captain now. Right? So how it ends essentially is, so when they were in the white hot room, all those mutants that had passed away or had been teleported by Xavier were there. And they essentially established a Krakoa over there. And, anyone that didn't go fight in the last war here with Orcus stayed behind and were in the White Hot Room, essentially establishing this new Krakoa. And when the war ends, this version of Krakoa basically pops into reality and merges with the Krakoa that we know on Earth, essentially uniting the two islands again. But what happened was time apparently does not move, or moves differently in the White Hot Room. So what the X-Men experience, which was like hours, they ended up spending like 15 years in there, essentially figuring out what mutant society should be, which is this like very open, very dialogue open society where there is no quiet council. You know, it's just a paradise. And so they also figure out a way to essentially resurrect or bring every mutant that was what's it called? Killed in Genosha. So basically everyone's alive again. And then they give every mutant the choice of either staying on Earth and just being, you know, living their lives as they did prior to Krakoa, or getting back on the island, and then the island popping out of existence again, going back to the White Hot Room. Again, that concept to me is so like, it's so grandiose, so new, and basically saying like Krakoa happened, but it didn't. Like that's, you know, like it just. So there's that concept. And then in the middle of all this, Apocalypse shows up and says, nah, y'all are doing it wrong. It's me. I'm the one that's going to lead it. And then what you see is all the character development you got with Apocalypse, which was he was this villain. He's turned a new leaf. He's obviously from mutants. He's about magic. And he goes back to being, I'm Apocalypse. You don't know anything. I'm better than you. I am this Earth's salvation, or I am this Earth's Apocalypse. And he completely degrades as a character, and he's back to being just Apocalypse, smashing and grabbing and telling mutants that they're fucking stupid. Yeah. I was like, I can't wait. And so that was the bulk of this issue. And it was like, they just turned this really cool ass character into, I'm just Apocalypse again. Where are my horsemen? And the X-Men fight him off. And then the mutants of Krakoa basically reason with him and say, listen, we've studied your way. It doesn't work. We reject you. And he basically uses his magic that he's acquired and comes to the realization that, yes, his ideas, his way of thinking is incredibly outdated and he is no longer needed. And he fucking poofs out of existence. He fucking does a spell and takes himself back to Araco. So, yep. So that's how that basically ends. Then you've got Xavier, who turned himself into Orcus, or to the. So now we're planning what we're going to be doing with X-Men comics, right? Essentially, Xavier has turned himself in because he's killed a bunch of humans on the behalf of Orcus. You know, he slaughtered. You know, he used an atomic warhead to blow up a space station. Like, he bad, right? And so this is again where you have the monumental task of resetting the X-Men, yet still having to tie up loose ends with storylines, right? Mm-hmm. And so we've established in this issue that Xavier is essentially the bad guy now. He's the shitty guy, but he's turned himself in. But even in turning himself in, he has set rules and safeguards so that he can essentially escape. So, like, he basically has surrendered, yet still can play if he wants to, if that makes any sense. So, Reed Richards, Tony Stark, all the great minds of the Marvel Universe essentially built his prison so that he can no longer be effective. Yet, in the dialogue of him describing his prison, he goes, but because I'm such a fucking genius, I foresaw this even before the island of Krakoa started. Yep. This is how it's written, dude. And I made sure that they designed loopholes for me to be able to escape mentally. So the last part of the book is him leaving his body in a temporal, like, what is it?
It doesn't matter. I know what
you
mean.
Yeah, like
we know what you mean.
A psychic version of
astral
himself.
plane.
Astral plane, yeah. And so he's visiting all of the X-Men now that they've kind of dispersed and are checking up on them. So like Kitty Pryde is like living a normal life. She's like, I don't want to be an X-Men anymore. I just want to be a waiter. And so she's at a bar and he's like, I envy her because she's just living her life. I'm like, shut the fuck up. And then Wolverine is out in the forest running naked with wolves and he's like, he's still hurt. I'm like, okay. Magneto has essentially started, he's doing the thing. He's being Xavier basically and shepherding mutants and not, he's thinking about the entire picture like Xavier had rather than what he was doing, which was just like solely mutants. And they do have a bit where like he says Xavier was right. Like he says that to him. He's like, you were right. And then Xavier's like, ha, funny. Like, it's funny that you're saying that now. So it's clear that Magneto is going to be the leader of the X-Men. We all kind of knew that from solicitations. And so, new groups are forming for the X-Men. We've got Miss Marvel kind of forming her own thing. And then he visits Jean, and she's doing her thing out in the cosmos as the Phoenix. And he comes to the realization that he also is not needed. So after this whole astral plane visitation, he goes back into his body and kills himself. Yeah. So when you read that, he just dies. And you're like, oh, hey, this is kind of like, that's a new direction. And I kind of applaud Marvel for it. Like, hey, he is leaving it to them. I'm done. I'm out. Dies, right? So Orcus is like, holy shit, what do we do? So they go and get his body. And this is how the issue ends. They go and get his body. And he's whisked away. And they're like, what do we do? Like, I don't know. He's just dead. Like, I'm sure we'll just bury him. And as the issue ends, he's in the thing like this. And then the very last, I don't remember what the dialogue was, but at the end, he just goes, and his eyes open. And you're like, okay, so what? He's the big bad now. Like, I don't know. It was so, like, I felt like when he ended up offing himself and killing himself, I was like, okay, like, all right, yeah. And then it's just like they went a step too far. Like, they're like, no, we got to keep going. Like, they could have had that reveal been some kind of hook in the new books. But to do that at the end of the book, like, it felt so, like, then what did we do? We didn't do anything. Like, we didn't do any, like, he didn't learn his lesson. He's coming back. Like, is it him? Is it Cassandra? Is it some other new form of, like, what is it? Like, what are we doing? So I don't know, nor am I going to shit on what the new writers are going to do. I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to give it a chance, see what happens. But as for Karen Gillan and Gary Jerry, I do not fault them for what's going on, but it is incredibly clear that Marvel wanted to get out of this idea so fast that they didn't have a proper amount of time to really end it the way I think it should have ended, which I don't know how it should have ended, but it didn't feel right here. Oh, and the other thing that they kept on like alluding to, every time Krakoa was mentioned after it popped out of existence, it was like, and that's the end of the first Krakoan age. That was the end of the first Krakoan age. Don't forget, that was the end of the first Krakoan age. And to be fair, now I'm right there with you, Nate. Like, it's definitely frustrating. But to be fair, Hickman and Gillen and Gary Jerry and even Al Ewing had been hinting at this idea that there was always, Gary Jerry. There was always this. There was a second age of Krakoa, whether it was within another live of Moira, which right now doesn't matter. But then even with like Cable, we've heard him say in Gary Jerry's books, like he's said before, like, oh, this is the first time. Like he's alluded to that there have been other stints with Krakoa as a concept.
Yeah.
Now, does that concept mean they have full on resurrection? No, I think there will be. I think we're leaving the door open for writers to write about Krakoa, whether that is Krakoa invading, and the concept of that island is fighting the X-Men or Earth. Who knows? Or coming in and saving the X-Men when it's dire and the Brood are fusing with the Phalanx and like some weird shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure that at some point Krakoa will be used as a concept to get the X-Men and or Earth or the 616 out of a jam. And I think that's why that was really used rather than, oh, we're going to do a whole 5 more years of Krakoa at some point. Like, I don't know. Comic Book Herald did say, like, the second time we see Krakoa, though, he does believe it will be in line with it being a concept within the MCU. So that's what, and I, when that guy fucking sprinkles any kind of foreshadowing, I listen. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's right on that. So anyway, that's this book in a nutshell. It was a lot. There was just a lot. But I think the thing that pissed me off the most was just the complete downgrade of Apocalypse. Oh, and then he ends up on a Krakoa and he's talking to an Araco island on Mars. And he talks to one of the demon mutants there, and he's like, "What are you gonna do now, Big Blue?" And he's like, "I don't know, find an heir." And I'm like, "Okay, so that's where he's going. We're gonna see the heir of Apocalypse, right?" So like, New Horseman, like just a villain. And I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want to see that again. I want to see Apocalypse be the guy who's resurrecting Camelot and fucking swinging a magic sword. Like, that's what I want to see. I thought that was really cool, and so just to not see that anymore is kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's see. I talked a lot. I wish I skipped this book because I picked it up just for information, but soon as I got it, my notification range went off about 3 YouTubers doing full reviews. Damn it. It would be nice if Chasm returned back to the light and quit using irrational logic. It would also be great to see more Howl's Eve. I love that character. I just want to be a waiter. Yeah. Let's see. What do you think? Miss Marvel's just popping back up like nothing happened. Oh, we'll get to that. He canceled his life subscription. The only thing that went through my mind when he offed himself was bye. Do you mean when she died in the ASM? If I thought that was the point, it was pointless anyway. It should have been, yeah. Well, we'll talk about that because she does something in this week's book too. Halftime question: which one of y'all hate the most? Big comics, retcons, resurrections, hard reboots, soft reboots. Add any if more come to mind. I don't know. I don't know if I hate them. I think it's more of how are they utilized. If they're done in the right way, I don't mind them. But when they're done recklessly, then I probably hate all of them. Mm-hmm. It just depends on the context. You know what I mean? Like Jonathan Hickman retconning X-Men and just kind of doing, or anything like retconning X-Men or Secret Wars, like if it's done masterfully, then fuck yeah. But if it's done just to be like, you know what, we got to get this over with, just end it. Like, that's shitty, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I will just pick one and say hard is the thing that I like. And now we haven't really got any of those besides the New 52, which I think is a great example of why those don't really work. But yeah, I don't know that hard reboot is ever really going to be the solution to things. I don't know, reboots in general, because we've had soft new stuff and they're like, hey look, there's new versions of these characters now, and everybody was like, "No, I can't handle this. My favorite main character is a woman. No." I don't know. Like that's too much for me. Let's just not do all that.
What retcon wish you never
retcons
happened?
of Resurrection?
I mean, I haven't been. We just haven't been involved in the hobby, I think, long enough to like be like, oh, that retcon fucking sucked. I will say, if there's one that I've experienced that I think makes no damn sense, is DC. When they did an entire massive long metal event, and then like within the next month completely retconned it because they were going to launch this new version of the DC that didn't align with the story that they told, and then they fucked that up and then relaunched again a soft like, if there's one, okay, I guess there's one, it's that. It's like, because it just didn't, like, I was so invested in death metal and what they did, and it felt epic and awesome, and then they were like, oh, 5G, wait, we're not doing 5G anymore, we're doing whatever the fuck it was called, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it just was a total, and we're still dealing with the repercussions of that right now, where like DC at the moment is just in this like weird floaty space of like, we don't have Justice League, but we have the main books. Yeah, deal with it. Like, oh, we're gonna do a bunch of different events throughout the year that don't make any sense, and we'll do something with them, but maybe not. I don't know. Like, it's just dumb. I don't know. Anyway, that was fun. Speaking of DC, what happened to John Kent's Blue Powers? Yeah, again, like nothing, because that book is never being written right now. Like, that's what I'm talking about. All right. Speaking of DC, we got Batman.
Hold on. I've been directly addressed, so I need to.
Okay, what's up?
John said that he just checked out WoFat. He's gonna have to check them out. That is the band that I'm wearing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you like psychedelic blues doom music, then that's the band you should definitely listen to. They're from the DFW area. The Black Code, John. That's probably their best album. If you want to start somewhere.
Totally Awesome Hulk count. That was the worst. I remember hearing about that. I never read about it, but I remember hearing about it.
Oh yeah. I'm not saying that when they did that it executed, because I don't believe they did.
I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, that was when
like it was like a new Hulk, right?
Entirely new Hulk. Yeah, and I can't remember his Amadeus Cho. He himself has appeared in some things.
Isn't he involved with like the Asian Pacific like Avenger group? I can't remember what they're called.
I think so, but I don't remember.
All right, let's talk about DC. We got Batman versus Batman. For Batman, 148 versus Batman. There can only be one.
But there's two.
But then there's one. Let me just say this. I thought it was clever. Clever. How he defeated Failsafe. I was like, but then it was also one of these like, but yeah, my force field. Like, that's how that felt, in my opinion. Like, when, like, the solution. I thought it was clever, but at the end of the day, I was like, okay, so it felt very like, we got to get to absolute power. Let's hurry up. Like, that's how that felt. So, and also, like, I get it. They outsmarted Failsafe, essentially by, his no-kill clause, and the Zernamber, whatever. I don't know how to explain it.
I don't even.
Him not using or utilizing that, that being the niche, but like, excuse me, when they were fighting him again and it was all the Robins, I was like, we did this. Like, they got outsmarted. And obviously, like, before, like when he first showed up, he beat the shit out of all of them. Right. But again, you've got this ace in the hole with the whole concept of like, you can't kill. But I felt it kind of just a tad cheap with I've got this special Lazarus pit lotion that will be injected into your body by 1,000 million
Yeah,
it's like
it
like,
was very do ex machina. Like, oh, here's this plot device I have.
exactly. Yeah, that was the
I will just make it appear.
Yeah, like that's what that if I had any criticism for the issue, it was that. I was just like, okay, cool, great. Empire, how do y'all feel, or how do you both feel about Absolute Power? I'm gonna probably read it, like the main books, but I'm not excited about it. I think I read one of the premises where it's like, I guess so, like all the DC superheroes are losing their powers, so they got to figure out how to fight Amanda Waller and her robot versions of them without powers. I'm like, cool, great.
That's pretty much how I feel. I'll read the main ones. I've learned my lesson with DC tie-ins too many times, where they do the big like $6.99 books where there's 4 stories so that they can hit on every character, so you know exactly what's going on with every character. And honestly, I think that works for a lot of people, and that's cool. As a matter of fact, if there's one with John in there, I might check that one out, because that's a character that I wish I was getting ongoing on. So I want to know what he's doing. But for the most part, yeah, I'll read the main books just so I am in the know of what's going on in the DC universe. And obviously, like, we're getting shoehorned into a lot, because almost every single one of our ongoings is going to be tied into the event. So.
And that pisses me off. Like, I know Marvel's doing the same thing with the current thing with McKay, but like, I'm invested.
Blood Hunt.
Yeah, like, I know
except the only like main titles are the Jed McKay books, and then somehow Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I guess you're right, because like there are tie-ins with all those characters, but you don't need to go pick them up. Like, X-Men's launching in July without any mention of Blood Hunt.
Right, whereas you still have all these characters that are like involved. Like, Black Panther is involved, but his tie-in is in its own miniseries. A tons of X-Men characters, Magic and Laura Kinney and Jubilee. Yeah, they're all getting their own separate little books. They're not interrupting our main books. And like, I get when you've got a huge world-spanning thing, you want it to feel impactful. It makes sense to be in those books, but like, does it? Does it really make sense?
It may in their minds, but it's like, I guess they're thinking, well, if you want the complete story, you have to read it. And if we force it into their books, then they'll have to. And like, sure, if that's the logic you want to have behind closed doors, but in my opinion, you're just telling people, don't read books, don't read DC this summer. Like, and what did we do when their zombie, the
Night Terrors?
Yeah, like, we dipped out. We were like, fuck that, we're gone. And we didn't
read DC for 2 months.
We didn't. And I remember like Lee and Mike at the shop were like, I guess, and then they were like, you're right. Like, you're right. Like, we get it. Like, you know? And so I guess with Absolute Power, like, there's some interest because it's Mark Waid and Dan Mora. Like, that. Okay, you got me there. Like, because it's not the fact that it's not even Joshua Williamson. Like, all right, bet. You know, like, I'm done with that, dude. But I don't know. This, to me, if this is Batman, like, if this is it for Batman outside of like the Absolute Power books that we're gonna get within the title and then chips out, I'm honestly a little disappointed. Like, I'm just gonna say that. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I wanted more, and we're not getting that, it looks like. Just as called it from the beginning, the fail-safe arc. This story is all about Batman beating the unbeatable Batman. It was too predictable for me. And I don't forget Mr. Ty. Miles.
Yeah, Miles. Well, but it does seem that the Miles title is going to make sense. I mean, the big reveal of issue 2 was him being changed, and then he the cover of issue 3. So apparently, they're going to be making a pretty big deal of this.
Him being a vampire.
I even saw someone saying that they were looking at solicitations or something, and like, it doesn't look like there's a clear resolution to Miles being changed back. Almost like they're saying like he might retain his, like, he might go Blade style.
Oh shit.
Because there's the last issue has a tie-in tag is issue 22, but we have issue 23 solicited. has no tie-in tag, whatever. This is after the event is clearly over, yet he still has fangs in his foaming blood at the mouth.
All right, well,
might be a chance he retains that.
That might be kind of fun. We'll see. Grayson, I think I'm optimistic. You said I skipped 9 terrors, but Absolute Power looks like a banger. We'll see. Like then, we'll just have to wait and see. I'm gonna try to be optimistic towards it, and it's because like what Nate said, like we didn't read DC for 2 months last summer. Like it just didn't happen, and it still feels like we are still trying to like recover from it, and now we're going back into this mode again. So, we'll see. But my experience with DC is like individually, they can tell really cool stories. When they try to tell these massive sprawling events, it's like they're trying to tap into what they did back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and like it's just not working, my dude. Like it's just not. Like it's not. All right, our last book of the night, Birds of Prey, issue number 10. You start.
Oh, I quite liked this issue. I felt like this issue a lot more cohesion to what we were doing here. We learn about the sisters, and we learned about the pocket dimension. Sisters gone crazy, and that's who this weird sludgy person is that's chasing them. I'm loving the like subtle art changes we get every time they dip into a version of reality. This one was really fun for me. I thought this was a really good take on what our normal artist does, but like has like its own color palette that kind of, I don't know, changed it up a little bit. Now we obviously had a different artist team. It looks like every issue for this arc, every issue of this arc we have a different team. So that I like that. I think that's cool. I think that's a fun way to like. I mean, it's obviously not my favorite. I would prefer our main guy, but for me it worked. In this issue, it totally worked. I don't think there was like a ton of substance. Obviously, we're learning about these characters, and we're learning about why we're stuck here. The thing is, we're taking a little bit to do that. We spent a lot of time setting things up, and I'm glad to know it. It makes me feel better about the story. But like, damn, we're going in deep. Is this stuff that's going to stick around in the story for a while? Like we did with Themyscira stuff after the first arc. And it feels like a little too much for that. I don't know.
So that's why I wanted you to start first, because I wanted to see like where your head was at with the issue. Overall, I'm in the same boat with you. Like I'm liking that we're getting explanation, but it felt like a lot in this issue. Like I felt like we got a ton of new things but
no plot progression.
No, that's exactly. And like I feel like we could have done this, and I get it. It's done for effect, right? Like, why is this happening? Read the next issue. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But like when you get 3 issues in, then you get to this issue and it's like, oh wait, here's all this plot device and why this is happening. And it just felt like a total dump of information where when I was reading it, I was like, wait, what? Where did these sisters come from? What is this? Like, where is this? Why is this happening? Like it just didn't. And how is it tied to Barbara? Oh, right here. Bip. Like a very like quick like, because she killed my mom. Like, wait, who's your mom? Wait.
She killed my mom in the future, but not your.
How many sisters are there? But they're all dead now? Like, it was so like I just felt like when you're say like you're camping and someone's like, does someone have a flashlight? And like, yeah, me, boop, and then like hit you in the eye and you're like, oh shit. Like, you just can't see. Like that's how this issue felt to me. Like we got all the answers we were looking for that quickly. And it was just like, holy shit. Like what? To the point where I enjoyed the mechanic of like Barda being infected and her just being like a drone, essentially, just this massive woman who's just like blowing up a house. Like I was like, that's fucking cool. Right. And then like Batgirl gonna be like, slap out of it, bitch. Like, and just like talking sense into her and her like being like, wait, this isn't me. I thought that was really cool. But in the middle of that was like all of this like story context that me personally felt like it was incredibly rushed. Like, we're 4 issues into this arc, and I feel like you could have like sprinkled it. Because like even when the new character showed up, the sister, I was like, am I supposed to know who this is? Or like, are DC readers supposed to know who this is? And like, I just don't read DC comics enough to know who this is. Or is this a new character? Yeah. And like by the end of it, I was like, I think it's a new character. So I was just a little conflicted because like I like this book, but like this entire arc, I felt like compared to the last one, has been like the execution for it. I just don't feel like has been as solid. Even though like mechanically, like you're saying, we get a new artist every issue because we're jumping realities. That's very clever, and we are very like we're obviously sticklers for like keeping the same art style because we want consistency. But when you use it as a plot device, then I'm on board. Like, 100%. So that's cool. But I'm not gonna lie to you, Nate. Like I was a little frustrated. Like when we got all of that story, I was like, I gotta read this again. Like I'm almost like I'm reading a completely new book. So is what it is. All right, that's gonna do it for tonight's episode of Two Fat Guys Pull List Chat. John says this is a completely off topic, but I got my new Hasbro Marvel Legends She-Hulk, and it's sensational. Mine's coming in this week, I think. I'm getting that and the Nightcrawler X-Men 97 figure, so I cannot wait to get those and put them on my wow. Super stoked for that. Let's see. Joe also says they're doing everything with Miles, the Miles character. They now give him the ability to form an electric sword.
Right. That's badass, dude.
It is badass. You're right. Yeah. So that was this episode. I'm glad that everybody watched who are watching live, and everyone that's watching this as a past episode. We do much appreciate you. We will see you guys Tuesday for a new comic book day video where we'll talk about next week's pulls, which are it's gonna be pretty crazy. Like there's some good books next week. I'm pretty excited. Some real good books. There's even some books that I completely forgot that are coming up that I like looked at your pull and I was like, ah shit. So like there's some books next week. So it should be a good one. So make sure to catch that on Tuesday, and then we'll catch you guys again this Sunday where we'll talk about all these books and more. I feel like there's some shows coming out that I think we need to talk about when they what?
I got a couple things. You go ahead.
Well, I'm not going to say House of Dragons because I know you're not watching that, but I'm going to be very involved in that because I fucking love that show. The first one was great. Unless you are now watching it. I don't know if you are or not. Have you seen Dune? Have you watched Dune 1 and 2?
I haven't. Isn't it crazy?
Will you?
Eventually, probably not this week.
So
I would just be honest and say not this week.
I'm hoping that you do because I think in August, if I'm not mistaken, it's either August or September.
TV show.
Yeah, and I'm so stoked for it because again, and I'm surprised you haven't watched Dune. Like you need to watch it because I think it's right up your alley.
It's because I want, it's such up my alley, and I built the hype up too much that I'm like, okay, I want to watch Dune. I'm like, no, I don't have 3 hours, and what if I get distracted, and what if I have to do this, and like, oh, and I've got million. Like I just like every time it's not the perfect time, and so I don't do it.
All right. Well, I hope you watch. All right. I've given you a project. Watch it before the show comes out because the show, like when they announced the show and I watched the trailer for it, I was like, oh my God, this makes me want to go read the Boom comics, which deals with the histories of each individual house within like a 10,000 year span before Dune. I'm like, why am I not reading that? Like, why am I not reading that? And that's the show. It's 10,000 years before Dune, and it's basically the formation of the Bene Gesserit. And I'm just like, oh shit, like this sounds so cool. And I can't geek out with my wife because she doesn't give a fuck. Like she'll watch it and she's like, oh, it's a good movie, but like she never wants to talk about it. And I'm like, well, I can talk about it with Nate if he watches it. So
okay.
Dope. Is there any other shows that are coming out that we should talk about? Again, I'm super stoked for House of Dragons.
Did anybody check out Star Wars Acolyte? That came out.
I haven't, but I've only heard like, the typical like Star Wars fandom sucks.
Yeah.
Is it good?
Yeah. I haven't seen it. I need to see it.
I want to watch it. I just haven't had time to watch it. I'm sure if everybody's sick in my house tomorrow, then I probably will watch it. But
there you go.
Yeah, but I have heard like again, like it just seems to be that like Star Wars fandom is the most toxic fandom in the entire planet. Like, it's so unfortunate. Anyway, John says, great show. Thanks, guys, again. Bye, guys. Hit that like button, y'all. Do it. Hit that like button. Anyway, we'll catch you guys this Tuesday, then Sunday. We'll have plenty to talk about. As always, be kind to one another and read more comics. We'll catch you guys later. Bye.